Hi everyone. I'd just like to create a short video to maybe make suggestions about how you can make educational videos that have a good level of impact with the minimum of effort, or we'll call this lean video creation. Uh, these are two principles that I would recommend and would certainly be behind my work. The first one is to keep it simple principle. Getting more complex may not pay off. And this is a sort of a version of the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule, which would sort of be interpreted as 20% of your effort will give you most of the impact, most of the result. Effort beyond that will not have the same impact. So if you need to reduce your workload, go for keeping it simple. To some extent, I was convinced of this in video by the early videos that Salman Khan created on mathematics learning and put up on YouTube. They were amazingly powerful, even though they were extremely simple. And I've often characterized this with the phrase pause and rewind, how simple video can be very powerful. Just having a simple video that allows you to pause and think about what was just said, or even rewind it, step back a little bit to repeat something that you found difficult is extremely powerful. But it's now extremely much easier even than it was for Salman Khan to create these videos. A good example in Ireland are the videos created by Eugene O'Loughlin. You can find him on YouTube. Just go and search for him. And he creates three types of videos, simple videos. One is recording PowerPoint, which really is about screen recording or screen capture and running your PowerPoint and talking over the slides, just as I'm doing now in actual fact. The second type of video is demonstrating application packages on a PC, which is the same technique. You record what's on your screen, you record your audio, but you step people through an operation in an application package. Now, the third one is slightly different, which is use of a visualizer or camera, which is pointing down at a piece of paper. I'll say a bit more about that in a little while, but effectively, if the topic you're teaching lends itself well to writing on a board or writing on paper, or if that's your preference for how you teach, that can be extremely simple way to record a learning video. Okay, so video is now cheap and easy. Now, we know that there's lots of content creators out there, are often called influencers or whatever. They might be creating all sorts of content, and kits can be bought quite easily for these. The most important part of your kit for creating these learning videos is your microphone. It's very important that you be clearly understandable. It is more important than a webcam. In fact, there's a lot of debate about whether you should have your headshot in it or not. And some people say that it allows your learners to relate more to you. Other people say it's a distraction. I've chosen not to include my headshot for this, for you to judge whether it's needed or not. Now, you have to think, if you do decide to go for a headshot, you have to worry a little bit about your camera. You don't need a high quality camera. Actually, in fact, you can get away with a lot lesser camera. You have to think about your background. Do you have to keep your room tidy? Do you use a green screen and then figure out how to put an image behind yourself? Not too difficult, and by the way, if you use a camera on yourself, you have to worry about lighting as well. That's actually quite probably more challenging than the camera. Now, you do need to have software for doing screen capture, as it's called. That's recording your screen, visually what's going on your screen, and possibly for editing, but not necessarily for editing. Um, cheap software like Snagit, Screencast-O-Matic, Awesome Screenshot, they'll do that, and they have some editing features. There are other ways to edit it as well, but generally wouldn't be terribly powerful. Then you have a more powerful package like Camtasia, or if you are in an institution, an organization, you may have a lecture capture type system or classroom recording type system, for instance, Panopto is one of those. Those could be tools that you'd use for recording or screen capture. A visualizer or a document camera. This is for if you like writing on paper. Okay? If that's the style that you think should suit you, really need to get one of those. Okay, so some tricks, as it were, or techniques for the lean production of video. Well, firstly, prepare well. Okay, and could be in practice. And by the way, you can record while you're practicing. In fact, you might make such a good recording that you think that's it. It's a wrap. So just practice a little bit. And this would be much easier for people who've been teaching a topic for many years. The other thing that a lot of experienced teachers don't think about is good PowerPoint technique. And I'm going to say a little bit more about that in a minute. Our objective here is to minimize post-production. And in a way, that's why we prepare well, because we don't want to be editing videos afterwards. We want to avoid that. But a very important thing in regards to minimizing post-production is to avoid perfectionism, tolerate errors. And I'm sure you're hearing plenty of errors in my speaking now. I don't intend to edit this. If you do feel you have the time to edit, if you make a mistake, you can leave a gap and then repeat what it is where you made the mistake. And you can go back later and find that from the quiet spot and cut it out in your editor. But if you're really looking to be lean, prepare well, tolerate errors. Now, I did say I'd say a bit more about good PowerPoint technique. Less is more. Don't try to put too much on a slide. Okay, use single words, keywords, key phrases. Okay, don't write full sentences. Avoid writing full sentences anyway. Have a font size that's readable. And if you think this is going to be seen on mobile phone, I'll say a little bit more about that later. That's even more important. Use images to make a point. To be honest with you, if you can make 1 point per slide, that's pretty good going, as it were. Don't try to achieve too much in a single slide, and use an image to reinforce the point you're making. And of course, the point I'm trying to make here is that you can have terrible slides. Avoid them, putting too much writing. Your bullet points can be used as prompts. You can see the way I'm using the animation here with my bullet points, and I'm not speaking to a script, so they're prompting me as to what to say next. You could use a notes page for that as well. And you can use animation, by the way, for indicating flow of a process or other things. In other words, animation within a diagram can be helpful as well to prove a point. Okay, now, is it all about creating videos? What is the most significant learning platform on the planet? Arguably, it's YouTube. Okay, so we can do what's referred to as curation. In other words, if these videos are out there together, if you're building a course, you can bring them together in a group, in playlists on YouTube, or into a learning management system. So don't think you always have to create videos. I do make the point that it's much easier to create videos now, and often it can be hard to find a video out there that's just what you want. So go ahead and create videos. But I would say that doesn't always have to be the case. You can find good videos. You can mix videos out there with your own videos as well in a course. I should say about transcription. A lot of recording systems like Zoom, Panopto, these will generate transcripts as well. If you upload your videos into YouTube, which I highly recommend if you're cutting costs, it will generate transcription as well. But you do need to edit those transcriptions. Another great advantage of YouTube is that it will translate the videos as well. But you should also get a native speaker or somebody who knows the language well to edit those translations as well. Okay, now I'm going to say a few things about what the research says, and I must give a nod to Donald Clark here, because a lot of what I'm doing in the next slides was taken from a presentation of his, and I'll plug his books here, so you can, at that link, I think you may be able to get 20% off if that's still going. Okay, what does research say about the length of videos? Well, it says that student engagement drops off after about 5 minutes. It starts dropping off. So you really need to keep your videos to about 5 to 7 minutes. That can be difficult. So if they go a bit longer, well and good, but really try your best to keep them short to 5 to 7 minutes. You need to reduce cognitive load on the screen. Okay, here's an image where there's arguably too much information on that screen. Do you really need a headshot? Remember, that saves you effort with camera and lighting and all that. Okay. Don't use background music. It can be distracting. Don't have complex backgrounds. And by the way, just to go back to that, tables can be a big problem. Very complex tables. If you're going to use tables, point to the information, circle the information that's important, that type of thing. Okay. Should you have a script or not? Well, informal works better with students. The research shows that. You need to know your stuff, but to some extent, informal shows the students that you know your stuff. They're more convinced by that. And if you're enthusiastic, and I would like to think that I'm enthusiastic doing this video, you certainly would probably realize I'm not doing this with a script. Make it personal. I talk about myself. Maybe I'll talk about you as a teacher or somebody who wants to produce educational videos. That helps a lot as well. The speed recommended is 185 to 254 words per minute. But to be honest with you, I have no idea what speed I speak at. I just speak at what seems to be a natural speed for me. I find when I'm playing back my own recordings, I like to speed them up. I sound more convincing, as it were. But maybe that's because I'm more familiar with the material. And somebody who isn't familiar with the material might need to listen to them at the speed they were recorded at. Now, some people don't feel confident enough to deliver without a script or feel it's not professional in it. And that's fine. You can script it, but remember, you will need extra equipment and you'll need to learn how to use that equipment. A teleprompter, and you can get cheap teleprompters that use a phone or a tablet and a mirror, and you can put the camera behind. That requires a fair amount of setup, and it also requires software for running the teleprompter. It can be got free, to be honest with you, but it's another thing that you have to learn to work with. Perspective. Just a quick thing in this: if you're doing some demonstrations of equipment or building or something like that, try and do it from the first person perspective rather than the third person perspective. Image size. I just want to say a thing about this because the research is fairly clear on that watching on a big screen, people learn significantly more. So if you can encourage your learners to watch on a big screen, however, you do have to probably accept the fact that a lot of them can't. And remember the advice I gave you earlier about using large fonts to make sure that it's readable on a small screen. So what do you do after the video? This is important for the impact of the video. Now, one thing is, at the end of the video, you should summarize, okay? Something I often forget myself, but it should be done. It works. And after the video, to give them an activity that's very closely related to the video content. That helps a lot to get them to remember. What would some of these things be? Like drawing diagrams, explain what you saw, create a video themselves. The students could do that, or even give them a quiz to make them think about what was in the video. Now, I'm a big fan of quizzes at the end of the video, particularly if they go towards a grade, if they're part of a course, because they encourage the students to take notes while they're watching a video. Think about it, take notes while they're watching a video. And it does force them to sort of remember immediately afterwards what was in the video. I want to say something about video chunk and retrieve. It is if you have longer videos, or even maybe with shorter videos, every so often you pause and have some sort of interactivity within the video. Now, this has been shown to be effective in improving learning. And these could be multiple choice quiz questions, true or false questions, fill in the blank questions, open input questions, hotspots. Now, the trouble with open input is they can be hard to correct. They have to be graded by the lecturer. It's hard to give feedback on them. But I would say that this is not something I would recommend if you're looking for a lean and you're trying to reduce your workload. You do need special software to get that interactivity into it, like H5P is one type of software. You need a hosting platform for it. You can't just use the regular hosting platforms for your video, and it requires significant effort as well to design this into it. I mean, I would say that if you follow the advice to keep your videos short, then simple quizzes between the videos, particularly multiple choice, which can be created extremely easily, will reduce your workload significantly. So you may have to almost, I won't say ignore this advice about chunk and retrieve, but maybe modify it a bit. So rather than have interactivity built within the videos, consider short videos and quizzes between the videos in whatever hosting system you're doing. Now, to summarize what I've said, keep it simple. What we want to do is just record our screen, or a camera or a document camera, but not necessarily with a headshot as well as the screen. We want to minimize post-production, so prepare well, tolerate errors, use good PowerPoint technique, don't crowd the slides, animation, there's a few things said there, use images, keep the videos short, 5 to 7 minutes. You don't need a script. If you know your topic well, if you feel you're an expert, you shouldn't need a script. Have an activity after each video, and a quiz is probably the easiest. The quiz is the easiest, and also it keeps a record of their activity. You don't have to grade it. Use existing videos that are out there if you can. Why not generate transcriptions and edit them, okay, so that they add to people who might want something more than just the video, maybe translations as well. So I'd like to thank you now, and then rather than have my headshot being recorded, that's what I look like there. Okay, thank you very much. Bye now.